Hi, Sats. Nice to meet you here again. We met already in person a few weeks ago. So thanks for joining our podcast and subscribe. So tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do these days?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Pius. My name is Sudarshan. I'm the founder and CEO of Pipeline. Most people just call me Suds. Pipeline is an all-in-one outbound sales platform for B2B SaaS startups. We provide a prospecting database that helps you understand who should I sell to and gives you their contact information. We have a AI generated copywriting platform that tells you what should I say to them once you find a person to sell to. And then finally, we have a sales engagement platform that lets you automate your outreach across email and LinkedIn, so you can always reach your customers wherever they are.
I have to say, I'm always impressed how well spoken you are and how you nail your messaging. Also test your platform. It's also as great as you bring it across. I have to give you credit for that.
Yeah.
We actually
My
are
girlfriend
using it
designed
here. What?
My
Your
girlfriend
girlfriend?
designed it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you're kind of like the next Canva with Mal and Cliff, like building unicorn. Is that the plan?
Hopefully, but
Um,
she's done it fully altruistically with no title or
okay,
anything.
okay. So you spoke about your company. So what motivated you to create this company? Was it like, oh, you woke up and it's like, this is the thing I want to create. And then you created this with Pipeline, I think it's called. You created this platform from day one, or was the different story to it?
Yeah, so our website is withpipeline.com, but we call ourselves Pipeline because pipeline.com is roughly $4 million. So anybody listening out there wants to lend me a penny, we'll get a bot. But anyways, yeah, so this was not a immediate overnight just yes, let's do this. It was a longer multi-year grind. I started by building firefighting drones and software for firefighters. We reached about 1 in 5 firefighters nationwide. And just before fire season last year, March 2023, about 2.5 years into building Fion Technologies, we'd raised from over 80 investors. We, had tens of thousands of signups for our app. We ended up having to pull it and just shut down because we were running out of money. It was clear that, more importantly than running out of money, it was clear that there was not a venture scale market in the wildfire space. The government only spends about $3 million a year on software, including
Oh, wow.
mapping software, communication software, et cetera, specifically for wildfires. And so it just wasn't a venture scale market. The total spend on wildfires is about 1.1 billion in the budget, another 2 billion out of budget when really bad fires happen. So it's just not a market that was sustainable at a venture scale where we could reach $2 million of ARR and then triple for 3 years to 100 million from 2, and then double to like 2 to 400 million of ARR, right? And so it just wasn't a market that I saw a venture path in. And so I started looking by like October of 2020, I started looking at like, what can I actually do? What can I build here with what I have, right? And like we had enough money left over, like for a proper seed round, or a pre-seed round of financing for whatever next idea we tried. And so I started looking at who do I want to work with, first of all. And I want to work with founders, and I want to work with startups. Initially, it was just early stage. Now it's just like I like being around that innovation. I like being around companies that are growing. And so it was like, we can work with anybody that's really, trying to build something and make something happen from nothing, right? And disrupt the market. And so that was step one, identifying who I wanted to work with. Then step two was figuring out what kind of business model I wanted to have, right? And I wanted to have a product that I could start as a operationally intensive business that could be run fully by humans and on Excel spreadsheets, almost like an agency. And then I could build software to automate all of that. And I thought running it that way, one, would allow us to validate people. There was a problem that people were willing to solve in the market. Two, it would allow us to cash flow, which is something we had not done previously. And three, it would allow us to really deeply understand what we were building software for, instead of just looking at other existing solutions in whatever market we chose to go into, and try to build software there. And
Right.
so with that criteria, understanding I want to sell to founders and fast growing companies, I want to sell to, I want to start with the agency type model or something that's very manual and automate that into a vertically integrated platform within 6 to 18 months of starting. I was pretty, that locks me, and it has to be in a very large market. right? So I was looking at fintech, wealth management, banking. I was looking at software for financial firms. Spent a lot of time there. Then spent a lot of time also looking at. I've invested in almost 70 startups. Normally as the first investor, or like one of the like in the first round of funding. And so it was like, what do I do for these startups? I help them recruit, I help them fundraise, and I help them sell. And so I started looking at what in 2023 March, 2 days after Silicon Valley Bank went down, I started looking at where do startups really need help. And in that time, sales really made a lot of sense. And the
Yeah.
through line between fundraising,
Uh,
sales, and recruiting is, if I know who to sell to, what to say to them, and where to reach them, I can also do the same for recruiting. And I can also do the same for fundraising. And so basically all that led to starting Pipeline as very aptly named, we're going to grow your pipeline, get more leads, close more deals is the slogan on our website. And it's stayed the same the entire year we've been
yeah.
around. And we started with an agency, and by August, we knew what software we had to build. By November, we had the first version out, and by January, we had it in the hands of our customers. And now we have companies such as Brex that we can count as customers.
Congrats. Wow, that's a big milestone. So I like your story, but now let's go a little bit deeper in what motivated you to become a founder. Looking back in your childhood, if you want to share it, obviously, I mean, for me, it was like, yeah, I was surrounded by people who build stuff. So I always knew I want to create something. Do you remember a moment in your life where you're like, oh, I know I want to build something very long time ago? Or was this something that you just evolved later in your life?
Okay, so you cut out for roughly 10 seconds, but if I had to get that question, the gist of it is why am I a founder? When did I know I wanted to be a founder? How?
Hello? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cool. And so, yeah, like, no, I did not immediately know I wanted to be a builder. It came about very roundabout. I, was always good at investing, always interested in like politics and news and all that. So I was always more focused on, at the time, just public markets investing. I got into crypto really early on. I had a lot of odd jobs, but the main thing was I guess, like always like very like builder, like I don't know how to code, but I was always getting things built. Like, when I got to when I was like 14, 13, I started like investing blog. When I, as that grew, I started like productizing things and having people on Reddit and Twitter like build out tools for the blog, like stock trackers and screeners and all that. And I started, I was like always trying to do more things. And my break sort of came when I was 16. I realized I couldn't play video games. Like I was like had never played them, so I wasn't any good, but I wanted to be involved. So to me, naturally, the very next thing was, okay, if I can't build it, then I can if I can't play it, then I can just build a team, like manage a team, own a team. And so I just started one. And that did really, really well. We were playing mobile games, whatever, but like made a little bit of money. But more importantly, it showed me like, oh, you can build things. And then my real unlock was somebody mentioned that, oh, you're like building a company. It's like, no, I only invest in companies. I don't know nothing about building. Like, look at your esports org. And so from there, that like very rapidly went from, okay, I don't actually want to be at the top of the capital stack. Meaning like, I don't want to be like just investing in companies. I actually want to be building them because, being in Virginia, being in North Carolina and South Carolina, where I grew up, like, that's not something people think about, right? I guess after the social network or whatever, more and more people started thinking about, oh, you can be a founder. But really for me, I fell into it because I wanted to do something. And the only way to do it was by building it and owning it. And so then I realized like, okay, if I was from money, then I would be like, buying companies or whatever, but I'm not. So I can build them, start them. And if I have an idea, I can actually like see them come to life. And so,
How was growing up in Virginia as a
uh,
founder I mean, it's like, I imagine Virginia, I'm from Austria, you hear it from my accent. So Austria is like literally as you imagine, like everyone is like quite reserved, direct. Not a lot of innovation there. I mean, now there is slowly, but it's kind of tough, I think, in Austria to break through and do stuff. I think also in the community, I think you don't have as much support. How's it like in Virginia? Is it like a big community that supported you, or was the resistance on you doing what you wanted to do?
yeah, I mean, when I was still living in Virginia until I was 15, I wasn't necessarily building things, but I certainly didn't have any support. I was always in trouble. I was always, I was just very vocal, very loud. I'm very tall as a person, big as a person. So I just
You're
took up
very
a lot of
tall. Yeah, you're pretty tall. I can confirm that.
I just took up a lot of presence and a lot of room, and that just ended up getting me into trouble a lot. Something that I thought like, okay, yeah, well, most founders aren't like that, but as I've met more and invested in more, it's very clear to me that like it's not like a rebellious streak. It's just more like if you're misunderstood or like what you're looking for doesn't exist, then you sort of try to go out and make it happen. And that just not having that ecosystem, that environment, anybody understanding what I was really, wanting was really difficult, right? I wouldn't say any part of the Southeast has that environment, but at least nowadays I've started seeing more and more people, communities, areas like trying to, foster that sort of like innovation. But that just didn't exist when
Yeah,
I was growing up.
yeah.
So it was tough, but by the time I got in North Carolina, I was on well-established denizen of the internet more than anything. And so I was able to meet a lot of people. Where I was living has a lot of banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, SunTrust are all headquartered there. And so it was
Okay.
like there was an ecosystem around that of like venture capitalists and finance people. And, it wasn't the Silicon Valley level and certainly not New York or Miami or anything like that, but it had an ecosystem where money existed and professional sports team existed and wealthy people existed. And so I was able to like at least keep meeting people and go up. And I had my first job when I was one of my first jobs when I was 16 at a VC fund, right? And I learned all about fintech and crypto and blockchain there. And so that sort of like accelerated a lot of what I was doing. But I will say also like to Virginia's credit, I was really good at investing, and I got my first job at a hedge fund or a private wealth management firm called American Capital Advisories. So it's like, I was 14 years old when I was doing that, right? So
Yeah, good job. Good job, I guess. Definitely good job. Well, so going back to your product now, as we covered a bit of your roots, but how have you ensured your product stands out to this day? I mean, you have already customers. So what did you do to make sure that your product is actually gonna be different than other products? I know your product is unique. There's no comparable product. At least I don't know about it, but I'm curious about it. How did you make sure it stands out?
yeah, no, I mean, good question. You inherently there's a like inherent reaction people have when they hear what we're working on, which is why does another sales tool have to exist? And I just say because like the first good one still doesn't exist, right? As a founder trying to reach other firefighters, trying to reach other people, as an investor investing in all these B2B SaaS companies and investing in all these just, companies in general that need to sell to startups. One thing I realized was that there just wasn't a platform that was easy to use, right? All these platforms are targeted towards those companies that are already on Salesforce. They're Series B, Series C. They're like publicly traded companies, enterprises that have tens of thousands of employees that are going to be using those tools because they're trying to sell on a per seat basis. With I realized, okay, there's an opportunity to build digital workers. And so how do we actually turn around and, build the platform, build this from the ground up in a way where one, founders can get benefit from it. Then two, we can increase the throughput of later stage company sales teams so that they're 10x faster with the Copilot. And then three, we can take all those tools we build, automate it, and turn into a automated sales rep. And so those are like the guiding principles. And I realized like, okay, first, when we say there is no good platform, what does that mean? It's just not accessible for startups, especially founders and early stage teams. And so I worked really hard to build a UI, or my girlfriend did, to build a UI that was just very sleek, right? And so people conceptually are like, okay, it makes sense. I know it's going to make money. I don't get why it should exist, right? But when they look at the platform, they go, wow, this is like really, really powerful, but really, really easy. There's a sidebar with like 6 things on it. Those are the only 6 things you can do on the platform. But inside of those, you can unlock a lot more features and capabilities. And whether it's a LinkedIn automation or the prospecting tool or the email campaigns or email master inbox, right? Like everything has a place. It's very easy to use and accessible. It's not hidden behind tons of menus. And the power is right there, right? Like you can imagine a workflow, you can get on the platform, you can just set it up in under 30 seconds to a minute. And so the goal was, how fast can we enable a team to get on, get live, and start using the platform? And once they're using it, how fast and how quickly and efficiently can we get them results without them having to go through a lot of pain, right? And so
Yeah.
I think it's just a visual experience. Once you actually see a demo or you walk through the product, you all of a sudden are like, okay, I have this problem, I'm in the market, or I might not even be in the market, but I know I'm having all these problems with my existing 7 different tools that, Pipeline integrates into one. And you just decide, okay, like, this is a better solution. I should just use this instead of using all these other tools.
What challenges did you face building it? I mean, it sounds like you have a ton of features there and it was easy breezy to build, was it?
It was not easy at all. It still is not easy. We have to, we do not scrape LinkedIn or anything like that. So we had to figure out, how do you, without breaking terms of service, build a product that can legally automate sending connection requests and follow-up messages, right? We had to figure out, we still have to keep negotiating with the data brokers that we're built on top of for our databases of prospecting data. Like, we have to keep negotiating with them, and there's always a new wrinkle, a new price point, a new whatever that we have to get around, right? And like, even just technically, all the microservices were built on top of the APIs, like, it's all just technical work. And then thinking through all the edge cases, thinking through, okay, do we need to build this or not? How do you prioritize this thing? Like, you have to really tie each feature and each product and each iteration down to ROI, and a direct end customer that's paying you for it. And all those things are hard earned lessons that, like, just took a lot of time to figure out, because we wasted a lot of time building different parts
Yeah.
that didn't need to
Well,
exist.
how do you know what features to prioritize if you don't have any paying customers yet? I mean, obviously you can talk to people, to potential customers, they will tell you stuff, but let's be honest, no one knows if they're gonna pay for it or not, right? So is it like, how much intuition do you put into those decisions?
Yeah, there's a good chunk of intuition, and founder instinct, but also it's just, do you understand the customer pain, right? We started
Yeah,
up an agency for the reason of, we needed to understand the customer pain. And so I always think back to our agency days. Anytime I need to prioritize A versus B, anytime I need to figure out, what workflow do we want? And we're still very ear to the ground. We still work with all of our clients every so often. If they need help, creating a campaign or writing a copy or whatever it is, right? Like, and so we're able to see, email deliverability rates fell 5% across the board last week. Google's clearly, made a change to their spam filters. That is priority number one. Like, we have to make sure that, like, emails are getting delivered, right? And so we'll drop everything and go fix that. But if it's something that's like what we're dealing with right now, do we add one more feature to the LinkedIn tool? Do we stabilize one existing thing in the platform, or that very few people use? Or do we add 2 more filters for prospecting? That is a very clear business decision, right? If it's not impacting the platform immediately, then it's a thing on who is going to pay us for what. And we know, and you always have to be talking to customers. You can't be building a company without having at least a few people you're building around, right? Like, if you have a gut instinct or intuition, then you should be reaching out to people. Use Pipeline to find the next 10 people you might reach out to and write them personalized emails, right? And be like, hey,
yeah,
can you give me some feedback on this, whatever? And then they say, I love it. You say, all right, what do you need to pay for this, right? Like, at what point would you pay me? When would you use this? What does it need to have? And once you know what it needs to have, you can turn around and build those tools for them. Or if it's
is
already
this
got
something
what they
you actually did? You used your own tool to reach out to future customers and ask them
yeah.
about one specific thing?
Yes. We reach out to people a week on LinkedIn and probably people a week on email, and we close about 15 to 20 new customers a week.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense, but I guess if you create a feature, would you then cold email outreach to 100 people and say like, hey, we're building this, do you like it? I mean, I don't know how
Yeah.
to envision it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, like right now we
How does it
use
work?
our existing customers and we ask
Yeah.
them, like, we were trying to decide between, do we generate AI copywriting, right? Like, do we create, what do I say to people, or do we build a better AI prospecting where you type in
Yeah.
natural which here's our product, whatever. And then it tells them, right? Like, here's who to reach out to. And unanimously, everybody said, I need the copywriting tool. I would rather personalize my messages. I'd rather, have a way to just very quickly breeze through what I'm saying to people. And like have that on a one-to-one basis rather than having to spend all this time, figuring out what to write and it's just generic. And so that's the kind of thing where we have a customer base. We're obviously going to leverage that. When we didn't have a customer base, we started just by texting all the founders I knew and figuring out what do they need to even be willing to pay us for the.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. I'm taking notes here. A lot to intake. What are your favorite subscriptions tool after Pipeline? Top three, either personal or private. It can be Netflix. It can be
Superhuman. I mean, I don't pay for Superhuman because I was a COVID first responder, so they gave it to me for free for life. But Superhuman.
You were what? You were a
COVID first responder.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a phenomenal product. I probably gotten them more business just by them having given this to me for free than if they had, charged me for it because I'm too cheap. I never would have paid. The information, I spend $200 or $400 a year, but it is absolutely the best use. Like, it's so worth it. Like, yeah, no, I sound so smart.
It's interesting. I see a lot of articles recently about the information that are well written and researched, particularly around the tech and VC space.
Yeah, that is what it is. It's like if TechCrunch didn't hate tech. It started by a lady whose husband is a VC and they both live like 2 miles down the street from me.
I was like, why are they writing so great stuff? I mean, I used to love TechCrunch like 12 years ago or 14 years ago when I started it. Tourradar, the first startup I worked with in Sydney. TechCrunch was kind of a cool thing back then. I mean, it still is. I don't want to talk bad, but it's kind of strange now for me to read the stuff there.
I haven't read a TechCrunch article in God knows how long. The last tool. Sorry?
What happened to TechCrunch? That's my question.
Make TechCrunch great again. The last tool is either Notion. Notion's not good, but like I spend all my time on Notion, so probably Notion or Slack or Spotify. It's a toss-up. I spend all my time on Slack, Notion, and I listened to 40,000 minutes of podcasts last year, but it's not like it's all just tech and VC podcasts.
You're insane. That's just insane, man. I spend around 0% listening on podcasts. I don't know what. I don't want to be told what to do anymore. No, I'm kidding. Do you pay for Notion?
Do I pay for Notion? Yeah, $20 a month for
okay. Yeah, Notion is a powerful tool, right? It kind of brings together a lot of different things into one. Do you integrate with Notion?
I've completely replaced it with Apple Notes.
Seriously? Yeah.
Yeah. You asked for paid, but Apple Notes, iMessages, Slack are like where my entire life runs, and Superhuman.
Yeah, Superhuman. Interesting. What's the next frontier after email and LinkedIn? What's the next channel people need to nail?
We onboarded there's a lot of AI tools, right? Like we need to build just like the AI generated copyright. Well, we built that. So now it's more like making that publicly available and increasing the throughput of sales teams. And then finally building the autopilot tool for like just, saying, hey, you tell us what quota you want us to hit and we will use our tools the same way your other sales reps use to hit the quota. And if we do it, pay us $20K a year. If we don't, then you pay us nothing for that one, right? Whatever it is. And so that's like one of the things we want to do. And then we just signed a VC funds talent arm that is doing recruiting for their portfolio companies. We just signed them up as a customer for Pipeline because
that's awesome.
Turns out we have enough of a platform that they can do recruiting directly through our prospecting tool and LinkedIn outreach and email sender. So TAM expansion.
And if you had a choice now, would you create a $1 billion revenue business bootstrapped or let's say $20 billion revenue business? I'm not sure if it's in $10 billion revenue business, VC funded. Profit margins are equally high.
At that scale, strength leads to strength, right? And size leads to more size. So you At that scale, it doesn't really matter if you have 100% of a billion at 30% EBIT, or because or 10% of a $10 billion business at 30% EBIT, or 5%, right? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it'd be very hard to unseat a $10 billion a year revenue business. Yeah, definitely go with that one. 10 billion
Okay.
VC
Yeah.
back.
This is awesome. Yeah. Is there one thing you wish you knew when you started to become a founder that you want to, like, not advise, but more like one thing you wish you could tell yourself when you were young and started with your startup journey?
Stop trying to save the world. Go run some boring businesses and that make money. And nobody knows what they're doing. Like,
Go run
no. A lot of people
boring
know what they're
business.
doing. Yeah, run a boring business, right? By boring business, I mean something that is like B2B SaaS, infrastructure, productivity, like, basically what I'm running or what you're running. These are
Spend management.
and
Yeah.
management. Very
Yeah.
boring, but very big. Well, unless you're Expensify, then very small too. But otherwise, big businesses.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, like, there very rarely does a SpaceX or Tesla or whatever work out. Though that's like the cooler thing to be working on.
Yeah,
And
but even Tesla didn't start that sexy. I mean, Tesla was like a battery company. You know,
yeah,
in hindsight, you always tell the story on how it becomes the thing. But do people really know when they start? Like, the success story. It's always good. Like, speaking about success is how you got there, but do people really know? I doubt that. I think in the moment when you create the Airbnb and you put out the mattresses in people's houses, I think it's really hard to envision the end state. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So the
Well,
story is always
I think you
nicer.
shouldn't start a company unless you have an idea of what those like 3 or 4 end states could be.
Yeah. Hey, sorry I interrupted you, but you said no one knows what they're doing and run not boring, but run a business. Just run a business, I guess. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, make money, make a lot of money, run a boring business in a big market. And I have to amend my statement. A lot of people know what they're doing, but things are always a mess. So you just have to be able to prioritize. And very few people know how to prioritize. That is what I meant.
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense.
That's
Okay,
my
cool. Last question. One thing you want to share with our audience through our channel is the one thing that you want to say about your product, about
how big is your
you.
audience?
It's like very big, 50,000 people a month. No, we're just getting started. It's not that many people on YouTube, but it can get very big.
Yeah, this
What do you
will
want to
go
tell?
viral. This will go viral in like 2 years when
It
everybody's heard
will.
about
It will. Once your
it.
company is like a $10 billion company funded.
Yeah. Oh, with pipeline.com. Go check us out. My girlfriend's redoing our website right now. That's the only thing I've got to plug.
Who are you most thankful for in your life? You spoke about your girlfriend a lot in this interview or podcast, and my girlfriend is a big support for me too. I don't know why, but she just helps me all the time in different
Good.
things, like not designing.
Good.
So what role does your girlfriend play for your business and you as a founder?
She keeps my head screwed on straight. She designed the entire product, is continuing to design the product for free. And she, just helps with recruiting, helps with fundraising, helps with, everything. So it's the other co-founder. I'm a solo founder, but not really.
Yeah. Well, let's end this with saying thanks to our partners, I guess, not just our own hard work. But yeah, really appreciate the time. I'm gonna stop recording now,